Hey everyone, welcome back to art. This is going to be a project that you're going to do without me because I am not here. So make sure that you're respecting the substitute, listening to what whoever that is has to say, and following those directions. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be kind of celebrating our school pride, and we're going to be drawing a beehive. But first you will have learned about beehives and bees and the kinds of things that they contribute to nature and to us, and the kinds of things that the kind of cool things that they do. So what you're going to need to involve in your drawing, I'm going to give you some must-haves. Okay, I want to see some form of tree branch that your beehive is connected to. So you're not just going to draw a beehive because beehives don't float in the air. They need to be attached to something. And this can be a tree branch. This could be actually something else as well. I've seen beehives that have been connected to the sides of cliffs. I've seen lots of different things. So if you don't want to necessarily do a tree branch, you don't have to, but that's kind of the thing that they're mostly attached to, so kind of keep that in mind. We need to see flowers of some sort in this picture because that's what the bees use to eat. They make their own food by going and getting nectar from these flowers and turning it into honey. So I want to see some form of flower anywhere in your picture. It could be on the tree, it could be blossoms from a tree, it could be just, flowers growing somewhere in your picture. Okay, I want to obviously see a beehive, and then we need to see a queen bee because that beehive wouldn't be there without the queen bee. The queen bee kind of directs everybody and tells them what to do. When those bees are born, she kind of put a little code into their genetics that tells them the kind of bee that they will be, whether it's a girl bee, a worker bee, maybe a potential queen bee. Okay, so we need to have a queen bee somewhere, and then the way we know it's a queen bee is because she is bigger than the rest of them. And then we need to see worker bees because that hive would not survive without the worker bees working together. So these are all the kind of requirements that I want to see on your paper, but I do want to teach you how to draw a beehive and hopefully give you some ideas. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to start with a tree branch, and your tree branch, if you're drawing a tree branch, is going to be coming, what I would suggest is coming off the page. If you want to do like a faraway picture and draw like a horizon line and draw a tree, the problem with that is that we won't be able to see those bees. They'd really just be dots. So we need to see kind of a close-up version of this. So we're not going to see the whole tree. We want to see like a branch maybe coming off the side here, maybe from here, maybe from the top. I mean, I don't think that you'd see one coming from the bottom, but if you want to try and make that work, you can. I'm going to just start drawing my tree branch from the left side going right. So I'm going to start with a branch maybe going from here, and I'm going to draw a line, and this is going to be the start of my branch. Maybe this tree branch goes all the way to the other side. Okay, but tree branches are not this small, they're not this thin. That's kind of like the thickness of a piece of your hair. So what we need to do is make sure that we're showing that this tree branch is strong enough to hold this beehive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another line that shows how thick this is, and you can make it as thick as you want. I'm going to make it about here. Okay, and so you're just going to follow the movement of that line, and this is the tree branch. Okay. You might also see branches kind of coming off of this bigger branch. So I'm going to draw a branch right here, and maybe it's going to go off the top. Okay, and maybe there's another one here. One thing that you want to make sure you do when you're drawing branches is these branches are going to kind of go with the growth of the tree. So your branches aren't ever going to go this way. If your tree is growing this way, your branches are growing this way. They're never growing this way. So make sure that you keep that in mind as you're drawing your branches. Okay, you can even make these branches branch off into smaller branches. Right, and maybe even smaller ones. Okay, So you're going to be thinking about those branches, and likely you guys are using a pencil. I'm using a pen, so I can't erase this line, but if those lines are bothering you, go ahead and erase those lines. And you're also later on going to kind of develop some form of texture, whether that's bark or if you want to make a texture out of a pattern, that's always cool as well. But we'll go over that in the next part of this, and you'll see me actually finishing that in the time-lapse video. So I've got my branch, got my tree branch. Okay, we got that, check. Okay, now we're going to start with the beehive. So you're going to choose somewhere on this branch to see a beehive hanging. We're not going to put it above it because things don't hang above things, they hang below things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a triangle, and this is going to be where I've decided to put my beehive. Okay, the next step in drawing a beehive is you're going to very, very lightly, because you're going to probably erase this later if you're using pencil. If you're using pen, even more so, you're going to need to make sure that this is very lightly drawn. But you're going to just draw an oval that is kind of hanging from this triangle here. And this triangle is kind of the thing that they built to kind of hold the beehive. And then this is the shape of it. Okay. The next step after you've very lightly drawn this, and it doesn't have to be a completely perfect oval, because you don't ever really find that in nature. You kind of see things kind of lopsided or whatever it is. So if you made it not a perfect oval, that's fine. It's totally fine. I'm glad actually that I didn't make it a perfect oval. So I'm going to go ahead from this point to start drawing some ovals inside. Okay, let me show you what not to do on the back. You got your triangle, you've got your really lightly drawn beehive oval, and you're starting with these small ovals inside of it. You're going to make the edges of these ovals, and the little skinny parts of these ovals, touch this lightly drawn line. You're never going to have it overlap it, because then it's not really going to look as much like a beehive. So don't do that, don't overlap it, only let these parts touch this line that we have. So I'm only going to do it like this. Okay? So I'm going to continue drawing these ovals, and they're only going to touch that line. And these are kind of like layers of honeycomb. Sometimes, if you really want to research what beehives, like certain beehives or honeycomb, look like, you might actually see these growing this way, which is really interesting. So if you Google that with your folks at home, you might see that. But we're drawing just the traditional looking beehive, and those ovals are not going to overlap this line. So we've got the beehive. Okay, and like I said, these are kind of layers of honeycomb, so you're going to see little, like maybe holes, so that the bees can go in and out. Okay, and I'm going to color those in dark because it's dark inside the hive. There's not a light source inside the hive. So what you're going to be seeing is these entrances are going to be dark. So I'm going to color those in. Okay, so now we've got the beehive. Okay. I want to see a queen bee, and remember, if you're drawing a queen bee along with other bees, you're going to make sure that she is bigger, or if you want to get more symbolic, you can just draw a crown on that bee and say, hey, this is the queen bee. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and do that. Remember, we learned about the different parts of the insect, so you're going to see a head, you're going to see a thorax. Okay, and on the thorax are the wings, and then you're going to see the abdomen, and that's where you see those stripes. Okay, and then you're going to see a stinger, and this is my queen bee, so I'm going to put a crown on her. Why not? Okay, but remember, she's also bigger than the rest, so the rest of my bees are going to be a lot smaller than her. Well, not a lot smaller, but smaller. So if I were to draw another bee, maybe my head is going to be, you know, this big, thorax is going to be this big, and then abdomen's going to be this big. Little stinger there. Okay, and then the stripes are right there. You might even see little legs when they're flying. And you're going to see lots of those bees around and on the hive. I would suggest putting the queen on the hive because she doesn't really leave the hive. The only time she really leaves the hive is when she needs to go find another home and her colony follows her. So I'm going to leave her on the hive, but I'm also going to be seeing a lot of worker bees. We got the queen bee. We've got a lot of worker bees going around the hive. So I'm going to draw a bunch of those. And you'll see me finishing off these little drawings on the time-lapse video if you watch that. And this is kind of just showing movement. Here's my abdomen, stinger, legs. Okay. So I'm going to be drawing lots of little bees everywhere. And what I like to do to also show movement is drawing kind of like a dotted line to kind of show where that bee was flying from. And it's kind of fun. Maybe this bee was over here. Okay. So I want to see more than 2 worker bees, but we're only going to see 1 queen bee. So let's say I want to see at least 10 worker bees. Okay. At least 10. So I'm not done, but you'll see me draw more bees in the time lapse. Okay, the last thing I want to make sure that you have on there is flowers. So I'm way up high on this tree here. So where I'm going to decide to put my flowers is on the tree. So this is going to be spring. Okay, that's when most blossoms kind of open up, is in the spring for fruit trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw leaves on my tree, but I'm also going to draw blossoms. And you're going to see lots of blossoms because there's lots of bees that need food. So there's a blossom, there's some leaves. Okay, so you're going to see lots of that, and I'll continue drawing those on the time lapse. Okay, the last thing I kind of wanted to give you an option of doing is either making this look like bark or just drawing a pattern on it. I did this with my younger grades, and they did a more kind of simplified version. And on here, I just put a pattern, and it makes it look really kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to show you what a pattern one looks like and just what like a bark one looks like. So if this is my pattern one, this is an example here. We've got some branches coming off, maybe some leaves. What did I say? This was the pattern one. So I'm going to just kind of make some line patterns in the branch. Maybe there's squares, you know, and it kind of makes it look a little more stylized, which is cool. So if you want to go that route, you're welcome to go that route. If you want to make it look more like just a regular tree, though, there's a branch for that, an example for that. Okay, so there's a tree. And then what I usually do when I'm depicting a tree in a drawing is I kind of just draw lines that follow the movement of the 2 lines that I drew for the branch originally. So you might just see these types of things. And you might see like little knots in the tree. So make sure you account for that as you're drawing your lines. Maybe there's like a little knot right there. Okay. So you're going to think about line movement more than anything else to make that look like a real branch. Okay. On here, I'm probably just going to do a pattern because I love patterns and I like creating those types of things. But that is the gist of this project. Okay. So what I want to see are those 5 things: a tree branch, flowers, a beehive, a queen bee, and worker bees. And then I also want you to, if you want to add other things in the background, you're welcome to do that. But I also want to see you color it. So you're going to see me do that in the time-lapse video as well. But that's the project, and I hope you enjoy drawing this little scene of beehives working their little tails off. And I look forward to seeing the finished product when I return. Keep in mind, we're not going to be working on this again. So try to do your best to finish this today. If you don't finish it and we have a chance to have a makeup week like we had last year, then you'll be able to work on this. But keep in mind, this is kind of just the only day that we're going to be doing this. Okay? So I hope you had fun, and I will see you guys later. Bye.